Hello, goddesses. I hope you're well and you've had a good week and a good start to a new month, October, after the new moon. I thought I was going to be giving you a message of guidance for this week to prepare us for the full moon. But as I've sat down to tune in, get attuned, and look back at some previous messages, I'm very much guided to do a recap from the end of September and the new moon to where we are now. Because if you haven't watched the new moon reading, it was a very auspicious reading for us. It was from the Sacred Forest Oracle by Denise Lim. And I just want to take you back to the guidance we had at the end of September. And it was guidance for the few days just before the new moon in early October. And it was expansion. It was Spirit Guardian of Summer. And if you watched the vlog, you will know that I was a bit confused at first of why on the 28th of September are we getting Spirit Guardian of Summer and expansion. But it quickly became clear that we were still in the end of summer. It wasn't technically yet spiritually autumn for us. And it was about this expansion, this last push of energy of the summer to complete something, finish something, make a decision about something. So if you want to pause the video here, you can, but I'd like you to take a few moments to reflect. And I know you're probably going to use your conscious mind to do this, but deep breathing and doing it through your soul rather than conscious mind, if you can, to reflect on from the end of summer to early October, from the end of September, sorry, to early October. Did you have a last burst of energy for something? Did you feel that you were able to do something a bit more, that you were able to move something forward that you hadn't for a while, or indeed that you made a decision that you were just going to leave it and pick it up again in the spring or later on? Because that expansion for decision making, we forget is expansion, but to make a decision about something, to soulfully make a decision, is that expansion. So take a few moments now and reflect. Did that happen for you? And if it didn't, that's okay. It means maybe you just can't remember right now, and you just need to allow that to float around your soul and see what comes up. So if you want to stop the video and do that with a journal, feel free to do that. So I probably did, and if you've watched the video about the changes to the circle from next month, from 1st of November, you will see that I'm using the energy of the intuition circle in a very different way now to make our focus on development, because that's what the divine feminine wants us to do in the world. And I think we've all reached a point now where we're very comfortable, most of us, very comfortable with sharing what our messages are, observing and sharing those observations with those of us in the group. And last time we started to use objects to feel into things as well as oracles, and we're going to be doing more of that, finding different ways to connect with intuition. And it had been on my mind for a while that then there was a shift in energy coming. There was a shift that was of energy that was needed in the circle, but it just wasn't clear to me what that was. And I'd gone through a number of different scenarios in my conscious mind, none of which felt right in my soul, and that was because I got it the wrong way around. We make the decisions from our soul and our conscious mind takes the action. So when I realised that, I let it go, and then it became clear to me that yes, this was the focus of what we're going to do. It's that expansion for me, that I knew, knowing that an energy shift was needed and allowing that to come in intuitively. That's what happened for me. I want to move on now to talk about the messages that we had from the new moon, because these really were very auspicious messages. And again, it was from Sacred Forest, and I will remind you of those now, because this is going to be some really serious reflection, and I think it's going to come up we're going to do some work on this in the development circle on Thursday. We had toadstools, which was growth, and there was an image of a woman with a toadstool hat over her head, and it was covering her right eye. And these were kind of earthly brown muted colours, but then in the foreground we had the toadstools we know from fairy stories, with a white stalk a red cap and white spots. So we had toadstool for growth, which follows on fantastically from expansion. After growth, we had butterfly spirit and transformation, and a beautiful shell with a woman and butterfly wings stood in the open shell with a pearl behind her, a pearl of wisdom perhaps. And we had phoenix transmutation, so there's a fire and there's a phoenix above the fire flying off to a mountaintop. So when we expand our consciousness, and when we expand, more importantly, our ability to allow intuition in, expansion is about something getting bigger, and it's about creating that space within the expansion to allow the intuition to come into your being, however intuition finds you, whether it's a bolt from the blue into your conscious mind, whether you feel it in your abdomen. So has that expansion that I described in my example led to growth? Well, yes, it has. It's going to lead to my growth and your growth in the development circle, because that's what we're going to focus on. So that expansion directly leads to personal growth, intuitive growth. So can you start to see the connection that I'm making? And what I'd like you to do is to reflect and see the connections you can make from your expansion to growth. So we have that growth, and I have growth as well as I start to teach you different things or new things or some things that you may be aware of that we go into more depth. So the expansion was about creating the space, and the growth is now the depth that we put back into that space. We're growing deeper, and like the toadstools, we're growing some quite significant roots. And with that growth then comes transformation. And that transformation, we think about the caterpillar to the butterfly story. And you won't have the transformation yet, more than likely. So the transformation of the development circle has not happened yet. So this is more of a predictive message. So we're going to experience the growth first, which starts this week, really, when we have the development circle on Thursday. We're going to start to experience the transformation as we go through that development growth for intuition. And that transformation is about seeing the world differently. We perceive things differently because we're coming from that deeper place of intuition, and we're recognizing things around us, firstly from the soulful place of intuition, then from our conscious mind. So we're switching up. So instead of looking at everything from our conscious mind or perceiving everything from our conscious mind, we're doing it the other way around, from the soul, and that's the sign of transformation. So when you start to be in a situation, and this probably already happens to you, and you think, oh, this individual's going through something I know nothing about, I'm getting some vibes here that are not related to what we're discussing or the situation or circumstance we're in, that's when your transformation is ongoing. And then when we get to transmutation is the idea of alchemy. It comes from this idea of alchemy, and back in the day there was a view that base metals could be turned into gold. Now, the spiritual term for alchemy is changing one substance to another. So in the case in medieval times, they wanted to change base metal into gold, and certain people thought they could do that through a spiritual connection. But the transmutation for us as individuals is the next step on from transformation, and transmutation gets you closer to a higher level of enlightenment about your soul, about intuition, about the otherworldly. So transmutation for an individual is how you are different. So transformation is about your perception and what you're seeing in the world. Transmutation is about how you are in the world. So that perception, you have that stronger depth of perception that you've gained during transformation. The transmutation is you become a different person within. Now, people may notice that externally about you. They may see you as being calmer, they may see you as being more spiritual. But it won't be a surprise to people because you've always had that within you. So this transmutation is how you show up differently in the world. You're still essentially you. but you are your spiritual self in the world, and that is the transmutation. So I hope that makes sense. We can talk about it more on Thursday if you don't understand it. Now, this is not a one-time deal. Growth, transformation, and transmutation is not that linear. It's not a one-time deal. And there are new situations, events, in spiritual initiations that can come up in your life where you'll go through this several times for several different things. Sometimes you may go through it more than once because you've not learnt the lesson, or conscious mind has got in the way, or something else that's happened. And we should never blame ourselves for that. So we have on Wednesday the 16th, we have the full moon, and I'll be doing an oracle reading for us. I don't think, as I tune in at the moment, I don't think it's a continuation of this. I think it's a brand new, what does the otherworldly have to tell us for that moon cycle? And then the following day, Thursday the 17th, for the development circle, I think we're going to focus a bit more on this. I'll ask you to bring an oracle with you. I'll ask you to bring an object with you as well again that you can use to tune into. But what I'd also like you to do is to bring some reflections about the expansion you had at the end of the summer, any growth you have felt since that time, any transformation. And you may not have experienced any transformation yet, and you may not have experienced the transmutation yet, and that's okay. But the expansion, and have you identified any growth? And then we can do some readings in the development circle about your own transformation and your own transmutation. So that's where we are. This is a very auspicious message, as I said, very auspicious messages, which is why I have come back to it again, and there's no harm in doing that, absolutely none whatsoever. So I'll see you on Wednesday for the full moon circle, and then see you on Thursday for the development circle. Take care. I hope you have a lovely good rest of the weekend, and see you next week. Bye.